Trauma happens on a very anatomy level. Like when you go through something, your brain changes and it works very different. Certain parts of your brain will fire, and other parts of your brain will not fire. You have the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. One is for emotions. I believe that's the right side, and one side is for logic. That's the left side. And what happens when you are being triggered by your trauma, the whole left side of your brain is going to shut off. And the only side that deals with emotion is only going to be firing. And your brain is not completely working as a whole unit. We discover how trauma works and how your brain processes and receives information through diagrams and explanation in this book. And I thought it was very interesting, very eye opening. So, when you take in information, you have what's called the thalamus. That is part of your brain that takes in all five of your senses: taste, smell, touch, hearing, sight. It takes in all that information from the world around you and processes it. It takes that information and it'll go down to the amygdala. The amygdala is a walnut sized part of your brain, it's by the brainstem, and it determines danger. People who have trauma, people who are sensitive, maybe introverted, they have an overactive amygdala. And what happens is anything that relates to that trauma or that discomfort, any smell, any bright light, maybe a loud noise relates to that event in your life. And your amygdala is going to determine that as the same thing. Like, oh, danger, danger, danger. And you're going to react before you even realize it. When you touch a hot pan, you're going to be grabbing your hand, screaming, ow, before you even realize what happened. If something goes even near your eye, you're going to be covering your eye before you can even process what's happening. And that's because that part of your brain will send the signals to the rest of your body before you can even know what's going on. And then, what's supposed to happen though is after your brain, that information reaches the amygdala, it's going to say, okay, there's no danger. That was just, a loud noise. The house isn't on fire. That's just something burning in the kitchen. That's what's supposed to happen. And then it's going to send that information to your hippocampus. Your hippocampus is part of your brain that's like the filing cabinet. It keeps all the records. It puts the narrative of your life in a past, present, and future context. What happens to people with trauma is they don't have that part of their brain. The information doesn't reach that part of their brain before they react. So they can't determine what is past and what is present. So automatically they're reacting and they're pulled back into that past event as if it's happening to them in that very straight moment. This is what's called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's very sad. People who have really significant trauma in their life, they can't determine where to place it in their life, and it probably becomes very confusing when that happens. After that, the information is to go to your prefrontal cortex where you make decisions. Mammals have the biggest prefrontal cortex. Humans, have the biggest prefrontal cortex out of all mammals. That's what helps us develop language, cognitive thought, a sense of self is all in your prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain. So it's interesting how all those things work together and become a single unit.